بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Let me make sure the voice is clear before I continue. Please, everyone, ensure that the voice is clear for me. Make sure that the voice is clear. Sayyid Mustafa, no YouTube today, huh? You are Facebook. MashaAllah. Jazakallahu khaira. Allah. Ya Rab. Alhamdulillah. Good, the voice is clear. So inshallah, today I want to conclude these sessions we've been doing and to put it in perspective, to make everything explicitly clear so that everything that we covered, you can actually apply it from here on out. So I need you really to have your pens and pencils ready. Most of the stuff you should already have. If we were in a live class, I would be giving you a verbal test. So we would be exchanging and having you explain all of what we covered in an accurate, precise way. Because I want us to have the knowledge, not just for ourselves, but that we can convey. And that is the most important thing, that when you learn, you have the ability to convey. And it's one of the things that I emphasize. You know, please do me a favor. And I ask this of you. And I ask this of you from me on behalf of my teachers as well. When you convey what you've learned through my route, please ensure that you have it accurate. It's extremely important, because when you convey and say, I heard this from Imam Amin, and Imam Amin took this knowledge from his teachers, you must convey what I said, not what you misunderstood. It's extremely important, because sometimes a person may think they understand, but they understand incorrectly, excuse me. And that is the reason why you need your teacher in front of you, because that teacher would question you, would test you. When I say test you, to make sure you understand, clarify terms that you use that are not befitting, and help you along the way. But this is sometimes the shortcoming or deficiency of social media. With all of the people who may join, it's not easy to facilitate making sure everyone understands. So I need you to ensure that you understand. If something is not clear, you message me about it. You get it clarified, you know? Yeah, I don't like Zoom. Zoom has problems with it that I like to avoid. But maybe In the future, when we get serious students, I have a system that is designed for that. And I want to make time for those students who really want to study, where we can come into a classroom where I can really focus in on individuals, inshallah, in the future. But for now, just make sure you're recording well and that you're trying to convey well. One time when we were studying hadith with one of our teachers, he mentioned a story of this person who used to, in the previous times, when the scholar of hadith would talk, there weren't any microphones. So they would have people who would repeat what the teacher conveyed to others. So you may have in a session 70,000 people. So there would be several people who would convey. The teacher would say something, someone at a certain distance would convey it, then someone at another distance was conveying it, and so forth. So one of them, the hadith scholar, said about him, so-and-so is a bad conveyor. He hears Zayd. He writes down Amr. He conveys Ahmed, right? So he memorizes Ahmed and he conveys Yusuf, for example, right? So he said that's how bad he is. He hears one name, he writes down another name, he memorizes another name, and he conveys something else, all in one session. So don't be like that, right? Write hear what you write down, what you hear, memorize what you write down, and convey what you memorize as you memorize it, inshallah. May Allah help us. So our point, we're talking about sifatullah, the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was our discussion. And in the Quran and the Sunnah, there are attributes related to Allah, which the apparent meaning of those attributes can make the person who doesn't know properly the belief in Allah have concept of at-tashbih in his mind, or likening Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to his creation, right? These ayat and these hadith are what we call al-mutashabihat. They are allegorical. And what do I mean by allegorical? Verses in a hadith, meaning verses or hadith that can bear more than one meaning in the Arabic language, right? So these are ayat and ahadith that are called al-mutashabihat, right? They bear more than one meaning. And you will find in the Quran, in Surah number 3, verse number 7, the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that he sent down two types of verses. Those verses which are muhkamat and those verses which are mutashabihat. Those verses which are explicit, muhkam. They are explicit. They don't bear more than one meaning according to the language. And he said these, Allah mentioned, they are the essence of the book. The foundations of the Quran are those ayat al-muhkamat, those ayat that have one meaning in the language. Then there are other verses that bear more than one meaning, and they are al-ayat al-mutashabihat, right? So likewise, you have a hadith like that, right? So what we're talking about is those verses in a hadith, or plural of hadith, those verses in hadiths, as some would say it, they have attributes that are attributed to Allah that if one didn't understand correctly, by reading them on their apparent meaning, one may liken Allah to the creation. One may believe in a tashbih, and this is mistake. So how do we understand it? So among those verses that are muhkam verses, they are those verses which bear only one meaning, is like the verse in Surah 42, verse 11, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ, or like the verse in Surah 112, Surah Ikhlas, the 4th verse, where Allah said, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, right? Meaning, there is no similitude, there is nothing like Allahu Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So these are verses that are explicit and clear. They bear no other meaning besides Allahu Tabaraka wa Ta'ala does not resemble his creation in any way. So you can take those 2 verses as an example. So everyone in the class, everyone in this session should memorize at least one verse, that's Surah 42, verse 11, the end of the verse, where Allah says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Everyone should have that verse in their mind. And it is the most explicit verse in the Quran that declares Allah transcendent above any resemblance to created things. So this verse has a tanzih al-mutlaq, absolute transcendence of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala from created things. Absolute divine transcendence. And if you take the other verse, all of you know Surah Ikhlas, so it should be easy. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Nothing absolutely resembles Allah. This is the foundation for your belief about Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. If you understand these verses and you understand that this means that Allah is completely dissimilar from any of the creation. And when I say al-khalq, the creation, what you need to understand is everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one base. There is a statement that is mentioned, and I told you about Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the companion, which he said, knowing that you cannot know the reality of Allah is knowledge in and of itself, right? Knowing that you cannot know the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knowledge in itself. That's knowledge. Knowing you cannot know the reality of Allah. And searching for his reality is an issue of disbelief and associating partners to him. Al-bahthu and dhatihi kufrun wa ishraq. Right? So once you understand this, and there is another statement that was related about Sayyidina Abu Bakr, in which he said, and I told you this statement, praise be to Allah, glorified, transcendent is Allah, the one who did not make a way for his creation to know him, except by being unable to know his reality, right? So this is from Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Why is this important? So that you get in your mind and you understand firmly and you believe without a doubt the meaning of laysa kamithlihi shay'un, that nothing resembles Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not something that we can grasp his reality subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the statement of Sayyidina searching for his reality, not his knowledge. Searching for his reality is disbelief and associating partners with him. So there is a statement of Sayyidina Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he said, whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is different from that. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is different from that. These are foundational principles that express the meaning of laysa kamithlihi shay'un wa huwa as-sami'ul basir. Right? When you understand that you cannot know the reality of Allah, and to try to understand the reality of Allah, to know the reality of Allah, is kufr and shirk. It is disbelief, and you end up associating partners with Allah. Because whatever you come up with is other than Allah. It's not the reality of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So one needs to keep in one's mind, whatever I imagine, Allah is different from that. SubhanAllah, this is important. Because when you understand this foundation, when you come to al-ayat and mutashabihat, right? Those verses that bear more than one meaning, or mutashabihat, those verses, they bear more than one meaning, you already going to not attribute to Allah a meaning that is not befitting, because you know that whatever you imagine about Allah, Allah is different from that. And this is foundational things you should have. Right? They're foundational. So build upon that we don't imagine Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We don't try to picture Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala with our delusions or our imaginations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be anything that resembles created things for you. Once you understand that, and the creation is everything other than Allah, you need to understand with the ulama of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Don't worry about scholars yet. I just want you to get the point. Trust me, get the point. That's all I need you to do is get the point. Very important while I'm mentioning that. Don't overload your system. Don't overload your system. Get the point first. You got the verse of the Quran, right? And if you got the verse of the Quran, that's all you need. Everything else following it is an explanation of the verse of the Quran. Right? Everything that follows is an explanation of the Quran. All I'm doing by giving you a statement of Abu Bakr, or a statement of Imam Ahmed, or a statement of other scholars, is only clarifying to you what was mentioned in the Quran. If you got what is mentioned in the Quran, that's all you need. Right? I want to tell you a story quickly about a scholar and an old lady. I want us to have the belief of the old lady. Right? One time, there was a great scholar. He lived in the 7th century. He died in the beginning of the 7th century, like 606 after Hijrah. His name was Al-Imam Fakhruddin Al-Razi. Al-Imam Fakhruddin Al-Razi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So he lived after Imam Al-Ghazali. He was one of the greatest mutakallimin in his time. He was among the foremost scholars of ilm al-kalam, belief in Allah and his message of theology, right? He was among the top in his time, Fakhruddin Al-Razi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And even in our time, when you get deep into these studies, you're going to have recourse to the books of Sheikh Fakhruddin Al-Razi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So he came to a town, and I didn't lose my point. I'm just showing you why I'm saying don't worry about all these names. If you get them, good, but don't concentrate on that. Concentrate on the point. So that's that verse in the Quran. So when he came to the town, the people were all excited. You know, this big scholar's coming to the town. No one has knowledge like him. He knows all about Allah. And an old lady, she saw the commotion and all the excitement, and she was like, what are y'all all excited about? And someone said to her, Fakhruddin al-Razi is here. He knows 1,000 proofs for the existence of Allah. That's a scholar. And if you ever read his books, mashallah, his books are filled with proofs and evidences, like a lot of proofs. You read his book at Tafsir al-Kabir, right? His book at Tafsir al-Kabir, very large explanation of the Quran, filled with proofs, filled with proofs. So that old lady, she was like, y'all excited about that? That was her state. You know, her state was like, y'all excited about that? She said, if he didn't have 1,000 doubts, he wouldn't need 1,000 proofs. And when that was reported back to Sheikh Fakhruddin al-Razi, he said, may Allah give us the faith of the old lady. You know, once you got the point, Allah gave us one explicit verse, Laysa kamithlihi shay'. When you understand that, everything else is extra. You don't need that. But, so my point is, even though we're going to learn about the other scholars, just get the point. If you get the point, you ain't got to go through a lot, right? That's sufficient when you understand Laysa kamithlihi shay'. The other things is just additional to strengthen what you already know. It's not necessary, right? What dalil you need after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made an explicit verse in the Quran that tells us nothing resembles him. Now, all you need is clarifying that. But as for the proof, that's all the proof you need. But be like the lady. The lady didn't have any doubt. So no mushabbiha could come to that lady and tell her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in heaven. She knew better. So, don't mix it, right? She wasn't ignorant. She had yaqeen and she understood. She had certainty. MashaAllah. Tayyib. So with that, we said that whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from that. And everything that you imagine is the creation. So once you got that, you got the base. All of the creation, everything in the creation is either, and you can write it in English, and if those who want to write in Arabic, you can. Everything in the creation is either what we call al-jawhar, a particle, and this is what the scholars mention in their books, the scholars of Aqidah, of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, among the Ash'ari and Maturidiyya. They said all of the creation is either a jawhar, we can translate that as a particle. It used to be said an atom, but the atom, they say, can be divided. So the jawhar is that small particle which cannot be divided. And there's another more technical term for that, but don't worry about that for right now. The jawhar is that small particle from which every other entity is made, right? Or an arad, or an attribute of that particle, right? So everything in the creation is either a particle, a jawhar, or an arad, an attribute of that particle, or a jism, or a body. And a body is made up, it is murakkab, it is made up, compounded of two jawhars or more. So whenever you have two jawhars, those small particles, or more, that thing is called a jism, a body. So every creation, that is everything other than Allah, is either a jawhar, an arad, or a jism, right? So this will help you separate Allah from his creation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be attributed with being a jawhar, an arad, or a jism, right? Everything you imagine in your mind is either a jawhar or an arad or a body, or it has sifatul jismiya, the attributes of a body. Do you understand that? Everything you imagine. Now just pause for a minute and use your aql, because we talked about the difference between al-naql and al-aql. Al-naql, the Quran and the Sunnah, laysa kamithli shay. Now use your brain, your aql, your intellect. Think about everything you imagine. Does everything you imagine have a form, have a color, moves, rests, has some kind of volume, there is some distance? Everything you imagine, think about it. All of it. And these are all attributes or characteristics of bodies, attributes of particles, or particles. Everything you imagine. Did y'all follow that? Did everyone get this? It's very clear. Did everyone get that? Just about those things. Al-Jawhar, Al-Arad, and Al-Jism. Put the terms Jawhar, Arad, and Jism on the screen. Quickly, just put the terms. Inshallah. Right? So, once you understand that, you know that whatever I imagine, leave it there, please, leave on the screen, barakallahu feek. Right? Al-Jawhar, Al-Arad, and Al-Jism. Everything you imagine is one of those three. The spelling is there, so you can get it. The Jawhar is a particle. The Arad is an attribute of the particle. Al-Jism is the body, right? Everything you imagine. Hence, Allah laysa bi jawharin wala aradin wala jismin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a body or an arad or an attribute of a particle or a particle, right? So for instance, I am a jism. My glasses is a jism. My book is a jism, right? This cup is a jism. The table, my computer, all of these are ajsam, they're bodies. They are all made up of arad. They are made up of jawahir, particles. Okay, Tenwir, I'll get to that. Just hold your question. Good, I got an answer for that. Very easy. That's why I tell you about translations. We can't do nothing about that, but I'll help you out. Don't worry. Protocol of Fiqh, I'll explain it. All right, Tenwir, just hold that. I got you covered. MashaAllah. That means y'all reading. That really makes me happy. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I have a goal in mind, and I don't want to get distracted. I want to make some lions for Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? Some lions. People who learn well, even if they don't have to be scholars, you just got to be steadfast. And you learn well, and you learn all these concepts, and you read a few books, and you study well, and then you just become a lion for Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. One of our teachers, he said, I love lions. I want to make lions. I love lions. We need those type of people. Now, so be lions. I named my son Lion. So you can be a lion, a big lion, mashallah. That's figurative, meaning courageous and strong and be steadfast, right? So all of these things, I'm giving you something, please pay attention. So my body, this book, the glasses, the cup, the table, the computer, all of these are bodies. All of these bodies are made up of jawahir, particles. So this book has more jawahir than the cup. Why? Because it's bigger. The bigger the jism, the bigger the body is, the more jawahir that make up that body, right? Because the jawahir is those particles. Whenever there's two or more, that makes a jism. So the more jawahir, the larger the size of the jism, right? So the glasses have less jawahir than the cup, right? The table have more jawahir than the book, and the computer has more as you get. So size relates to the number of jawahir that make up that jism, right? And al-arad or a'rad are the attributes, sifatul jawahir. They're the attributes of those jawahir, or sifatul jism is attributes of the body. In other words, so this book is black, gold, red. So there's the colors. These are jawahir, right? They're colors. So when you have all of these things, movement, rest, these different things, they're attributes. That means they don't have a standing of their own. They need a body to stand in, right? The jawhar has a standing of its own, and the arad, those attributes, they stand, they exist within the jawhar. They don't have a standing. So if you don't have a body, you have no color. If you don't have a body, you have no movement and no rest, because these are attributes of the body, right? So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is not a particle, not an attribute of the particle, nor is he a body from which that make up particles. Is this clear? Very important. Because once you understand that, now it's easy to not ascribe attributes of creation to Allah. Because this is the creation. That is what the creation is essentially made of. All of the creation. And everything like that is other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, all of these attributes, all of these aspects of creation, right, are attributed with kayfiyya, kamiyya, makan, jiha, right? All of these things are attributed with howness, with quantity, amount, with location, with direction, with distance, right? All of the creation, which is the jawahir and arad and ajsam, they're attributed with all of these things. Kayfiyya, a howness, right? Kayfiyya, howness, modality, right? All of them are attributed with amount, right? Shape, form, size, density, right? All of them are attributed with being in a place, a location, makan. All of them are attributed with jihad, direction. All of them are attributed with distance, masafa, between each other, right? Bodies, jawahir have distance between each other. None of these things, al-kayfiyya, al-kamiyya, al-makan, al-jiha, al-masafa, none of that can be attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because laysa kamithlihi shay. Do you understand that? I'm summarizing this lesson, so you just boom, 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 boom. When you got the points, that's it. If you understand this well, anyone who tries to ascribe attributes to the creation, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will break them in half when you understand this. And I don't mean literally, because they say, may Allah break your back. I don't mean that. Don't break nobody's back. Allahu Akbar. That is funny. One guy, he said to me, May Allah guide you or break your back. I said, SubhanAllah. Man, that's cruel. La ilaha illallah. Right? But figuratively, when you understand this, no one could actually come to you and give you an attribute to Allah. And you're safe when you understand this. And that's why some people, they say, you know, this is all ilm kalam, it's all, nah, when you got this right, man, it's so easy. It only seems puzzling when they make it too complicated and too scholarly and use big terms that you can't understand and don't break it down. Once you understand it, it's clear as day. Like, mashallah, it's easy, not hard, right? So, since all of these have those attributes, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is transcendent, right? He is transcendent above howness, modality. That means He cannot be attributed with howness, right? He cannot be attributed with quantity, amount, al-kamiyya, right? That means size and volume and weight that don't relate to Allah, right? And He cannot be attributed with a place, location. That's why Ahlus Sunnah say, Allah mawjudun bila makan. Allah exists without a place. Why? Because place is what is directly attributed to al-ajsam, al-a'rad, al-jawahir. And Allah is not a jawhar or an arad or a jism. So Allah cannot be attributed with makan, with place. See how simple that was? That's simple. Because to be in a place is necessary, that is related to al-jismiyya. To be in a place is related to al-jismiyya, meaning bodily attributes. And Allah is not a jism. And since Allah is not a jism, He's not from which jisms are made up of, are composed of, which are jawahir. And attributes of jawahir are arad, attributes of the particle. And Allah is not that. So Allah, laysa fi makan. He's not in a place. And when we say He's not in a place, we don't mean He's in every place. So that's not the opposite. When we say Allah is not in a place, that means being attributed with a place is not befitting of Allah. Not that Allah is in one place or many places or all places. Place cannot be attributed to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Places is only attributed to al-jawahir and al-ajsam. And Allah is not a jawhar or a jism. Why? لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Simple. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Very simple. Nor distance, because distance relates to bodies. One body is at a distance from another body, and since Allah is not a body, therefore there is no distance related to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Right? And there is no direction, because direction relates to bodies. And Allah, laysa jisman. He's not a body. Sometimes when I listen to the Aqeedah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and you say to yourself, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, this is beautiful, right? This is Aqeedah. This is at-Tawheed. You know, Junayd al-Baghdadi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, as Imam al-Qushayri mentioned in his book. Okay, let me give you a quick test, just for see if y'all were paying attention. And I'm going to tell you why I said stop memorizing a bunch of scholars. I gave you in the previous classes the statement of Junayd al-Baghdadi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where he said at Tawheed is to distinguish al-qadim from al-muhdath. Al-qadim meaning Allah, the one who has no beginning, from al-muhdath, the created thing. Who mentioned that statement in which book? Quickly, go. Junaid al-Baghdadi. He mentioned that statement, and he's from the Salaf, Junaid al-Baghdadi. He was the head of the Sufis. He mentioned the statement, at-Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, is to distinguish between the one who has no beginning and the one who has a beginning. Who said it in which book? I mentioned it. Come on, I mentioned it several times in these classes. Did anyone get it? And don't worry, it's not to discourage you. It's to encourage you. That's why I say be focused. Stop all that side stuff, because you memorize all the side stuff, and the stuff you're supposed to memorize, you forget. Why? Because you occupied with the side stuff. Don't be occupied with the side stuff. Imam al-Khattabi, laugh out loud. Yeah, laugh out loud. Not Imam al-Khattabi. Come on. It's a whole bunch of y'all. Come on, give it to me. I know somebody memorized it. Not al-Bayhaqi. Go to your notes. Open your notebooks. Find that statement and tell me who said it. I'm not going no further to at least one person give me an answer. This is where the class will end. And I'll make my point. And I'll just say, وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ وَسَلَّمَ. Assalamu alaikum. Then I make takbirat on you. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Finish. Come on, somebody. Nobody? That means you weren't listening. I'm just talking. If nobody can remember it, this is bad. And let me tell you what my teacher would do. Y'all ready? I'm giving you 1 more minute. If no one finds this answer, I'm going to teach you a lesson that our teachers would have taught us. All right, Jomo, MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar, Ya Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. I am so happy. That's right, Muhammad. Show them what it is. Show them what you got. MashaAllah. Muhammad saved the day. Everybody do a takbir for Brother Jomo Williams, Brother Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. He saved y'all because I was getting ready to cancel the class. Go study your notes you don't need anymore. Like, no, my teachers did that. Seriously. You ask a question, you didn't answer, he was like, okay, go study your notes. You don't need no more. Go study what you learned. Right. So he copy that statement of Jomo Williams. He said, a risala from Imam. He spelled it wrong, but don't worry about it. You still get points because I know what you're trying to say. So it is, I'll write it again. You're right, but you just said the name wrong. But the point is right. I know what you're saying. So the book is a risala by Imam al-Qushayri. All right. Here, put that up on the board. Risala by Imam al-Qushayri. So the great Imam Abu al-Qasim al-Qushayri, he wrote a book which is the foundational book in Tasawwuf, right? So for those who like to know about real reliable books, that should be A-R, not a T. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It should be A-R, not A-T. Ar-Risala, right? So take the T out, make it an R. Ar-Risala al-Qushayriya. It was written by Imam al-Qushayri. He lived in the 5th century Hijr, around the time of Imam al-Bayhaqi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Do I got Risala to Kushairiya here? No, I moved. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, I moved the book. I was going to use it. MashaAllah. I'm sorry. I'll find it for you later. But this book, Risala to Kushairiya, it is one of the earliest, most transmitted books in the science of at-tasawwuf, in Sufism. So Imam al-Kushairi, he talked about the whole methodology and the whole science of tasawwuf and creed and what the concepts of tasawwuf and the great early scholars of tasawwuf, and most of them were from the Salaf. So whenever they'll talk about those great Sufis and they mention them, they say he's from Rijal al-Risala. They're from the men of Risala, meaning the Risala of Kushairiya. That shows you how strong this book is. But he mentioned that statement from Junaid al-Baghdadi, that at-Tawheed is to distinguish the one who has no beginning from the one who has a beginning. So that is Tawheed. So when you understand these concepts that I mentioned, you understand a Tawheed, which is going to lead you to distinguish the one who has no beginning. So therefore, all of those attributes of created things all of these created things will not be attributed to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So that is it. At-Tawheedu ifradul qadimi min al-muhdath. Tawheed is to distinguish the one who is without a beginning. The one who's without a beginning is al-qadim. He's attributed with al-qidam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, al-qadim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-azali, al-awwal, has no similitude to any of the created things. Al-makhluqat, right? All of the created things is other than Allah. That's Tawheed. Simple. Now, don't try to imagine Allah. Ascribe to Allah what Allah ascribed to himself and stop. You're safe. I thought I would be able to finish this open, so I got to finish tomorrow because I don't have enough time. But I think this conclusion gave you the gist of what I'm saying, right? So we have to continue tomorrow. I thought I would be able to seal it up, but there's some other points that I need to make. So we got these points. Please memorize them well. And all of us have to recite Al-Fatiha for Brother Muhammad because he saved the class. I was getting ready to go on a week's break because you didn't answer. But I think you got the point of studying your notes, right? Don't be like Imam al-Ghazali in the beginning of his journey. Imam al-Ghazali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Hujjat al-Islam, when he was in his younger days studying, he went to study one of his teachers. And one time, he was coming back and he had all his notebooks that he had written notes from his teachers. And the caravan he was in was hijacked. It was robbed. And they took all the goods. And the leader of the bandits, the highway robbers, Imam Ghazali, was following him. And Imam Ghazali, he was a young boy, young man. He said, you can keep everything, just give me my notebooks. Because I just recorded all my knowledge. And that man said, if these you need for your knowledge, you don't have any knowledge because I took it. And from that point, Imam al-Ghazali, he remembered that incident. And from then on, he memorized all of his notes so that if he ever lost his books, he would never be without the knowledge because he memorized it all. Right? And that's why the scholar said, Al-ilmu fi sudur la fi sutur. Knowledge is which is contained in the heart, not in the pages of books. And I remember one of my early teachers, at the time, it was difficult. He wouldn't give us books. He would not allow, right? He would make us write everything, right? And I remember I still to this day have notes that I wrote for entire books with explanation. That he would sit and would make you write everything. And I used to, alhamdulillah, have private one-on-one sessions with him, writing stuff from books. He would be reciting and checking and he would have the book. I'm like, why don't you just give me the book and make it easy? He wouldn't give me books until I finished writing the entire book with the explanation. And then he would give me a book. And I never forget this lesson because what it did, it helped me. Now I'm older now and I forgot so much stuff. But, you know, when you get old, you're naturally going to be forgetting unless Allah bless you. And then when you get a bunch of responsibilities, you're going to forget more. So while you're in student mode, be a good student because there's going to come a time where you're going to have to rely on what you memorize because you're not going to have time to read and, you know, you're working and your family and community. You don't got time for all that, right? But if you got a good beginning, if you learn well as a student, you memorize, you write down, you record. They said writing is how you tie your knowledge, right? Right? You want to bind your knowledge, make it tight, right? You know, write it down. It has an effect on the brain. It helps you memorize. The more you write, the more you'll memorize, right? Don't get to recording. Some of our teachers, they would not let us record anything, no recordings at all. And my earlier teachers, I don't have one recording of them, not one. They wouldn't let us record. No recorder allowed. You come in with a recorder, get out. Your recorder is your notebook and your pen. That's how they work. But when I look, and I'm looking almost 30 years ago, and alhamdulillah, I'm still able to convey most of what I already learned, right? So I want the same for you. Like record, and memorize, right? Don't allow just what's in your notebooks because don't just get your notebooks and put it on the shelf. Nah, take your notebooks, review. Because you got to teach somebody one day. Somebody's going to count on you to understand the knowledge. And if you're not refined and you don't have it well, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And we're human, we're going to make mistakes anyway. We just don't want to make big ones. But if you don't If you don't, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. If you don't get in the recording, telling you. That's why a lot of times, I'm telling you, I've noticed this, and mark my words. That's why a lot of people, they get intimidated when they hear someone who opposes the belief of Ahlus Sunnah and they remain silent. It's because they're not well tuned, right? I don't debate. I know why you don't debate, because you don't have nothing to debate with. Because you don't have to debate, you can explain the truth. But if you ain't sound, you just have this concept, I got it for myself. That's not the purpose of da'wah. That's not the purpose of learning just so you have it for yourself. You have al-ilm, al-amal, and a da'wah. You have learning, you have practicing, and calling others to Allah. The Prophet said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." Convey from me. He said, convey, ballighu. That's a command. You got to spread the knowledge. You can't just keep it for yourself. Knowledge is a right, and it has a right to be spread. You don't learn it just so I got knowledge. No, you got to spread it. You got to teach. You have to convey. That's your job, right? And the only way you convey if you preserve well. So preserve well to the best of your ability. All right, let me take some quick questions. I think we got the point. I don't know what a subatomic particle is, so whatever you understand from that, if you understand from particle, subatomic particle, element, I don't know all those terms, right? But if you understand from those terms that small particle from which every entity or body is made up of, that's what I'm talking about. What name you use for it, all them scientific names I'm not familiar with, right? I know that's why I say I know the concept. If you mean by that, those words you intend by that, that's what I'm talking about. But what I learned was these words: particle, attribute of the particle, or a body. Now, like I said, they used to call the Jawhar an atom, right? And they may have some other fancy word for it that I don't know. And honestly, I listen to these college people, like those people who studied in Western universities, and they talk about ilm kalam. They talk about the same thing I'm talking about. Sometimes I read their stuff and I have the slightest idea what they're talking about in English. And then I say, could you explain that to me in Arabic? And then what they said in English, and I speak English, I don't know what they was talking about. But when they say that in Arabic, I understand exactly what they were saying. Why? Because they just use all these big fancy words that I don't know. I'm not saying the words that mean, you sound great, but I had the slightest idea what you're talking about. You got all these words with 26 letters in them. Come on, man. But they're talking to their colleagues. They weren't talking to me. So, everyone talked to the people at that level. So I'm not belittling the importance of having such a strong, high vocabulary. You're talking to your colleagues. Maybe that's the words they need. But for us, please break that down so that it's understandable. I know brothers who studied kalam, ilm kalam, and they're probably way better knowledgeable than me in this field. But if they explain, you're not going to understand what they're talking about. In fact, you might be turned off because of all these big words and all this technical terminology that no one understands. Just, it sounds great. But the bottom line is the bottom line. One of my teachers told me that yesterday. He was saying the important thing is that you're getting across the points so that people can understand. Not using terminology to say something that no one understands and they can't convey. Make sure they understand the point. The fancy terminology is nice, but if the point is not understood, what's the terminology has no use because they can't do anything with it. They don't understand what you're talking about. And we should not have the concept, this is for the intelligent, and if you're not intelligent, it's not for you. Okay. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum, Imam Amin. I ordered 2 copies of the Book of Assistance from the Masjid bookstore. All right, there's the accusation. No, I'm joking. Right, I noticed that on page number 3, line number 11, it says, all creations are the children of God, and the dearest to God are those who are most beneficial to his children. This is a clear statement of kufr. So I was wondering if you would take a moment to explain the correct meaning so that new Muslims won't get confused, inshallah. All right, give me 1 second. Allah. You're going to make my point. Put that statement back up, please. Quickly. Put that statement back, please. All right. All right, that's good. Y'all see the statement? That's Brother Tanweer, Barakallahu Feek. So he asked this question, and do I got a book of assistance? Hold up. Let me check. Let me see. English. Okay. Let me, you can take it down. It said page 3, line 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. At the end of the page, right? So here's the book of assistance. That's the book the brother was talking about. This is page 3 and line 11 is where, that's page 3, right? All right, there it is. And line 11 is here. So here, that's line 11. There's the statement. And all creatures are the children of God, and the dearest to God are those who are most beneficial to the children, to his children. So that's where it is. That's the statement. So you'll know where it is. Okay, here's the problem. I tell you all the time. Imam al-Haddad, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, did not speak English. Everyone understands that. Just like we talk about the Quran is not in English, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam are not in English. Where's my glasses? Right? Imam al-Haddad did not speak in English, right? So therefore, when we translate, we need to translate for meaning, not for literal. I can't do anything about people literally translating. They do it. I wish they stop, because this is the danger. But Dr. Mustafa Badawi, he did a great service in translating the books of Imam al-Haddad, right? May Allah reward him. He doesn't believe that. But unfortunately, when he translates literally. I have many of his translations, many of it, but this is what happens. He's not an English-speaking person normally. He doesn't think he's raised up around scholars, around a habaib. They don't have bad beliefs. So he would never imagine that someone's going to think Allah got children, even though he figures that you would understand this is metaphoric. But he doesn't understand all of those concepts. I know that he doesn't believe that, for sure, right? No doubt about it. Bad translation. So how should it have been translated? This is what he's mentioning. This is the book, Risalatul Mu'awana. Well, it's more than Risalatul Mu'awana. This is the Ta'liqat of Imam al-Haddad. So Imam al-Haddad, when he was teaching his book, he explained the terms, right? In certain parts of the book, he explained the terms. This is Imam al-Haddad, right? And this is why I told you, you need living teachers. Without a living teacher, you can read on your own. You're going to make mistakes, right? So Imam al-Haddad, He relates the hadith. Here's here. There's the hadith. Y'all see that? He said, Al-Khalqu kullahum iyalullah wa ahabbahum ila Allah ta'ala wa ahabbuhum ila Allah ta'ala anfa'uhum li'iyalihi. Right? Al-Khalqu kullahum iyalullah wa ahabbuhum ila Allah ta'ala anfa'uhum li'iyalihi. You see the hadith? There you go, right there. That's the statement that was translated. When he said, that was translated in English, all the creation are the children of God, and the most beloved to God are those who are most beneficial to his children. That's how that's the Arabic wording. Al-Khalq kullahum iyalullah wa ahabbahum ila Allah ta'ala anfa'uhum li'iyalihi. That is the statement, right? Now, if I move up, you'll see at the bottom, I'm not good at this. You'll see at the bottom, there's a red footnote, there's a red number there, number 1. You see that? That means go down to the footnotes, ta'liq. Imam al-Haddad, right there at the bottom, says, Qal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. That's Imam al-Haddad explaining that hadith. He said, Ay mu'tajeen ilayhi. They are in need of him. لِيَنَّ إِيَالَ الشَّخْص مَنْ يَعُولُهُمْ. I cannot see this. I just showed you. مَنْ يَعُولُهُمْ وَيَنْفِقُ عَلَيْهِمْ. وَمَرَّ قَالَ أَيْ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ وَعَبِيدُهُ وَهُمْ مُحْتَاجُونَ إِلَيْهِ. So Imam al-Haddad explained that. What did he say? The meaning of Al-Khalq kullahum iyalullah, all of the creation are the iyal of Allah, right? So the word is iyal. That's the word that's translated as children in the English text. He said, ay mu'tajeen ilay. It means that they are in need of him. All the creation is in need of Allah. He said, why? Because the iyal of this person, those who are, if you want to say, that are under his care, are those whom he takes care of and he spends on them, right? And then another time, Imam al-Haddad said, Ay khalqillah wa abidahu. They are his creation and his servants, and they are in need of him. So all of us are in need of Allah. What is meant by al-khalq kullahum iyalullah means they are muhtajun ilallah. They are in need of Allah. It doesn't mean children. Is you clear? Imam al-Haddad explained it. Imam al-Haddad explained it. There it is. So don't accuse Imam al-Haddad with saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has children. I'm trying to put it, focus it. There you go, right there. Bring it close. There's the explanation. They are in need of Allah because the ones who are dependent upon a person are those whom he takes care and spends on them. And in another time, he said that's the creation of Allah and his servants, and they are in need of Allah. Do you follow why I said stop relying on English translations? Imam Haddad didn't believe Allah has children. He explained it. But in your book, the explanation is not there. When you sit with teachers, when you learn with scholars, it's a big difference, a whole different world. So now fix your books, cross out children, and put the creation. You can reword the whole thing. I'll go back, page 3. I'll reword it for you. Line 11. And all of the creation are in need of Allah. And the most beloved to Allah are those who are most beneficial to his creation, to his servants. Y'all got it? Y'all follow? So there's the statement of Imam al-Haddad. He explained it himself. That's why you need a living teacher. It is written in one of the books of Ahmad Mashhur al-Haddad. He was from the family of Imam al-Haddad. He was a great scholar who passed. He said in a line of poetry, the meaning of that poetry is, a man may think that books are of some use to men of understanding in gaining facts. The ignoramus cannot know that therein are mysteries mysteries. The ignoramus cannot know that therein are mysteries which daze the most astute. If you should pursue the sciences but lack a shake, you'll stray from the straight path and track, and things will be so much confused for you that you'll be lost and know not what to do. I'll repeat it. A man may think that books are of some use to men of understanding in gaining facts. The ignoramus cannot know that therein are mysteries which daze the most astute. If you should pursue the sciences but lack a shake, you will stray from the straight path and track, and things will be so much confused for you that you'll be lost and know not what to do. I think that point is very clear, right? Don't rely on books. Books are secondary sources. Living teachers are the primary sources. The Prophet said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars, which were living teachers, are the inheritors of the prophets. He didn't say al-kutub. He didn't say books are the inheritors of the prophets. He said scholars are the inheritors of the prophets, not books. Books have mistakes. I told you, books depend on several things, especially translations, especially the Quran and the Hadith, right? They rely on certain things. Number one, the knowledge of the translator in both the language he's translating from and the language he's translating to. That's important. If somebody asks me, Imam Amin, why you don't write books? Translate, because I'm not a good translator. I don't know Arabic good enough, and I don't even know English good enough to do translating well, to write it without you being present. Because my language is not strong enough. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. I just don't have the strength in the language. I may know rightly what to say, but I may not even be able to write, and I can't, a sentence that doesn't have grammatical mistakes. I didn't graduate from high school, and I was like every other American kid. I was running the streets when I was a kid, getting in trouble. Not every American kid, but where I grew up, everybody was like that. So we learned how to talk, but writing and grammar, that wasn't our concern. We didn't even do that once we got teenager reading a book. That's out of the question. Nobody's reading a book. We're busy trying to get money, right? I mean, so I'm just being real. So that's not something I can do. Now, living teacher with me, I can explain and make sure you understand. That's another story. But writing is difficult. So the translator, if he's not good in both languages, that's going to be a flaw automatically. Secondly, when he's talking about religious stuff, he got to understand the religious science and be trained in the science he's talking about because of the terminology and what is applicable in the science. If he don't got that, there's going to be mistakes, right? And to know what is befitting and not befitting between the languages, because everything that's in Arabic, when you translate into English, it may not have the same meaning depending what you're talking about. This is important. That's why I say, that doesn't mean if you don't know Arabic, you can't learn the religion. It just means you need someone there to make sure you understand him properly, because books don't talk. That book is not going to say, hey, the author didn't mean children. This is the translator's error. The book's not going to say that to you. Only a living teacher is going to say that. The book's not going to say, yo, Imam Haddad explicitly explained the meaning of this. It don't mean children. The book's not going to do that. Only a living teacher can do that. Now, some may get mad at the translator and say, why did he translate it? That's his strength between languages. And he never thought about this point, because if you ask him, he's going to tell you the same thing I just told you. Oh, no, it don't mean that. But for him, it's inconceivable someone's going to think Allah got children. but he's not considering the mind of a person in the West who's grown up in Christianity, where all they say is, "Waliyadu billah," that we are the children of God. May Allah protect us from such kufr. But that's common in our language. And every time I go to some kind of public rally or some, meeting, and they bring Jews and Christians, and my skin crawl, because all of them, they always say we are the children of God. Waliyadu billah. So if someone read that and listened to that, they'd think we like the Christians and Jews. But that's not what Imam al-Haddad said. That's not what he understood from that hadith, right? So that's my point. So maybe you get a lesson from that. May Allah reward Brother Tanweer. Imam al-Haddad was Ash'ari. Imam al-Haddad was Ahlus Sunnah. He was the mujaddid of his time. Trust me, Imam al-Haddad has a sound belief, sound aqidah, right? And his books represent, but even when you read the translation of his books, that's something you have to be aware of. There's going to be translations that are not befitting to translate Allah. And that's why these books need to be taught with teachers. I keep telling people that. Everybody want to skip a teacher. Not do it myself. No, you better not. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You need a teacher. And humble yourself and sit down. Even to this day, I still go over these books, and I've been over them several times. I still, every time I get a chance with a teacher who's explaining, I sit down and I listen, and I write notes, and I record. Still to this day, I don't get the question, I don't learn that book 5 times. I don't need that no more. No, still, maybe he's going to explain something that I forgot the last time. Maybe he's going to add something. Maybe he's going to clarify something that I didn't catch the last time I did it. The scholars, they said that a student of knowledge is not a student of knowledge unless they hear a case 1,000 times and they get the same joy as if they heard it the first time. When they heard it the first time, that joy you get when you learn something, after 1,000 times of hearing it, you still have that same joy, then you're a student of knowledge. All right, let's take a few more questions so I can end this as Jumu'ah, inshallah. Right now, we're not reading from any book. Right now, I was explaining things. We're going to go back to the Creed of At-Tahawi when I finish all of this. But right now, I'm not reading from any particular book. The one book that I was reading from, that I was using as a reference, was the book Al-Asma wa Sifat by Al-Bayhaqi. But the book's in Arabic. I don't know if you can see, because I don't know if you're looking, but this was the book that I was using as a basis. And I should warn you, this book was printed by the Wahhabiyya. We're waiting for a Sunni publication of the book. It's coming soon. We do have one, but so the footnotes in this book are put there by the Wahhabiyya. So be aware of that. You'll see it. It doesn't have anything to do with Al-Bayhaqi wrote, but they put their footnotes, and that's just something we can do nothing about. Until we start funding our scholars, because we don't fund our scholars, those Wahhabiyya, they take their money and they make all the books and they put their footnotes. Sometimes they change words. They do it. But we don't support our people. We don't want to spend money. But then we wonder why we don't have what we need. We don't spend no money. That's why. You don't make grants for people to translate and for people to write books and for people to research so they can spend their time doing it. We don't do that. The Wahhabiyya, they put millions of dollars in publishing companies and people to do work to spread their stuff. And we, on the side of Ahlus Sunnah, very tight with our money. We don't spend on our teachers. We don't put our students to school so they can learn and so they can come back and they can write and benefit and teach. We act like that's not important. So until we do that, we're going to be stuck with what we have to work with. But long as you got living teachers, inshallah, you'll be okay. I mean, you can read. Did you read while you have a teacher? It's not haram to read books. You need to expand. But you should have teachers. You know what I mean? You need to read. I don't tell nobody don't read. That'd be a mistake. Read. But just understanding you're going to have some deficiencies because you can't get explanations. So you need teachers. But that's why I say stick with a teacher. Like a lot of times people want to come and they want to be all over the place. I'm like, nah, we're going to learn this book. Sit down until you finish this book. And people don't want to do that. I know I want to read this. I want to read that. One thing at a time, Habibi. Slow down. Learn this one book. Finish it. Learn it well. Then we'll go to another book. Then we'll go to another book. But that takes time. You got to be willing to sit down. You got to be willing to be focused and not be all over the place. That's what it takes to learn. All right. Can you give the fiqh ruling as it relates to translation and the translator? Is it a combined for the trans? I mean, translations are beneficial. They got to be translated for meaning. And the translator should understand how to convey properly. But people that don't mean they're not going to do it. It's money in translating. So people are translating. And sometimes they're not careful. Sometimes they don't even have the ability. That's why you need living teachers. I mean, but we're not going to stop people from translating books incorrectly. And I believe they're beneficial. Just correct the mistakes. Not everything is a mistake. So you correct the mistakes and keep it moving. You know? I mean, even those Wahhabis, they did a great service in one sense to make a lot of books available. But they put some stuff in them that's wrong. If you can get them all out and you start with a teacher, then the rest of the book would be beneficial. You know? Not everything is wrong. This ain't a perfect world. You're gonna have shortcomings. We're human beings. But we just don't want shortcomings that's going to make us commit blasphemy or kufr. And that's why you have living teachers. So don't skip the living teacher. Friday, we have it's tonight. Tonight's Friday, mashallah. So tonight we continue in our book, Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I would suggest all of you come. You're getting a moment to go over a book. Because with these sessions, these reading circles, I'm just going from book to book to book to book. And inshallah, after a while, you're going to be covered a lot of books and you're going to learn how to study with a teacher. Yes. MashaAllah. Tayyib, may Allah reward you. Please spread the video. Everyone, make your intention to spread knowledge and press the share button. We need to get this knowledge out. We need to spread the knowledge. These things, I know it's hard to come by. There are not many people teaching Ahlus Sunnah, and definitely not many African Americans who are reaching our people. So we need to spread this knowledge. We need to help one another to learn. And we got a journey, and everybody got to play their role. Whatever you can do to help, help. We have a lot of work to do. You know, we have a lot of work to do. This is not an easy task. And it takes some lions. You got to be courageous because it's not easy. SubhanAllah, it's not easy. You just see, we even got our own books of Ahlus Sunnah books that we still got work to do in them, right? Because people will see that and they'll put the book down. Oh man, that book said Allah got children. I'm not reading that. And that's the translator's mistake. But that wasn't the mistake of Imam al-Haddad. But if you didn't have a living teacher who actually read books of Imam al-Haddad and studied in the Arabic language and understood, we'd be shot. We would be stuck. And then people would leave off Imam al-Haddad because of a translator's error. Especially our people. They would love to have that. This is because Allah got children. Yadu billah, no one says that. But bad translation. It doesn't mean the book it's not value. It just means we got work to do. That's my point. Because this is one of the best books I've ever read. But also, I have Arabic and English. I have multiple copies. I've read this book many times with teachers. You know? So we got work. We can't be lazy. We got to work. Laziness is killing us. We have to work. May Allah protect us from laziness. Make us workers. Get busy. We got a lot to do. You know, we're outnumbered, outmanned, outgunned, out everything. But we have Allah. And if we rely on Allah, we're going to be victorious. You know, but we have to work. Jahid to shahid. Imam al-Haddad, he said, Jahid to shahid. Right? Let me put that up. That should be our anthem. Right? Hold on. Jahid to shahid. That should be our slogan. Did it go? Yeah. I'll tell you how to say it. I'll put it in English. And that's Arabic, Jahid to Shahid. And in English, the English transliteration, Jahid to Shahid. That means struggle, make good effort, and you will witness. That's Imam al-Haddad. He said that. Jahid to Shahid. That's like my slogan. Jahid to Shahid. Don't give up. Whoever keeps striving towards Allah and struggling, Allah is going to guide them to His way. Right? Whoever strives in the path of Allah, Allah is going to guide them to His way. Jahid to Shahid. Keep working. Don't give up. Keep going. That's that words of Imam al-Haddad is the golden rule in my life. Jahid to Shahid. And I know that's true because I've seen it in actualization. Jahid to Shahid. Barakallahu fikum, inshallah. All of you have a blessed Jumu'ah. Read Surah Kaf if you have the opportunity, or at least read some verses of it to get the reward of reciting Al-Kaf on this day. Make abundant salat wa salam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Today is a beautiful day to make salat and salam on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Do it, do it, do it, do it. And I'll see you tonight. Jazakumullahu khaira. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.